This is Change Reaction Radio and the Change Reaction Radio podcast on 790 KABC. If you're listening on KABC, thanks for sticking around. If you're catching us as a podcast on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, hey, do us a favor. Could you hit that like and subscribe button? It really helps the show out. We appreciate it. So I'm Matt West. I'm your host. Christina Pescucci is here with me. Great to see you.
Back at it again.
We're doing it. Now, look, over the last couple of weeks, we've been talking a lot about wildfire recovery and how the Change Reaction's been helping people rebuild and quickly. And that's the safety net that the Change Reaction provides to so many people. But, you know, not every emergency makes headlines. So, Christina, imagine this. Imagine you're growing up in this city. Already a challenge in and of itself.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Now, imagine trying to do that and make your way through growing up without a safety net.
This is one of the most important issues in our city as far as I'm concerned, and we're talking about the foster care system. I'm incredibly passionate about it for many reasons, but I think a lot of people don't realize how many people are touched by it. You have 30,000 foster youth in LA County alone, and 50% of the homeless population was in foster care. 75% of the incarcerated were touched by the foster care system. This is there's a clear need that needs to be addressed within this system, and we're going to get into that.
Yeah, I mean, these kids they're innocent, right? They've done nothing wrong. They've just been born with a spade of bad luck, right? They deserve the same thing that every kid deserves, right? Stability, support, chance to thrive, opportunity. Change Reaction has been part of supporting foster youth since its inception, since before that. It's really baked into the DNA. Brooke Perlman, one of the amazing Perlmans who are behind the Change Reaction, is here. She's the Change Reaction's community communication manager. And you really have been at the forefront of this since the beginning of the Change Reaction. But the foster youth connection has really been a part of the organization since before it was an organization. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah. No, it's been part of our life since I was a kid. We were giving Christmas gifts to foster kids and their families that they were with. But since the first day I started at Change Reaction, foster youth and the foster care system was a really important issue that we were tackling, mostly because of the relationships that my parents had and the involvement that my mom had in a lot of organizations around the city. I mean, it always has pulled our heartstrings. We had a sister foundation before the Change Reaction called the Always Up Foundation that allowed first-gen students go off to college and provide support. And a lot of them were also foster youth or in the system. It's been embedded in our life forever.
I love how your parents really ingrained that idea of philanthropy within you from such a young age in so many different ways. Why do you think this issue was so near and dear to their hearts?
I think they have that, especially my mom, but my dad too. They have that parental feeling, that motherly, fatherly feeling, and watching their kids grow up and have access to so many resources, I think was something that we all knew was such a privilege. So seeing that there were so many kids who didn't have that, I know from my mom specifically, really wanted to make sure that those kids felt loved.
I mean, the Change Reaction has stepped in so many ways to help so many different organizations. But I think it's hard for a lot of people who don't have that experience and haven't really interacted with either the foster system or kids, now adults, who have been through the foster system. But Christina, you've spent a lot of time advocating for foster youth and have some great connections with the experience.
Yeah, when I look at our society, I think it's common sense to support kids from the beginning, to have a foundation for families and children. And I am so excited to bring in someone who is near and dear to my heart, 21-year-old Reyleen Delgado, who has that lived experience of being in the foster care system. We met when she was 17, and she joins us now. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me on.
So good to have you. It's an honor. She is a rock star. You, in college, or in high school rather, you had a 4.3 GPA. You, at that time, were an aspiring neurosurgeon, a track star, and I have a million questions I would want to ask you, but I would say first, when you look at this system, where do you think the cracks are? Like, where does it start failing kids?
I think it really starts with mental health services. So first, to begin with, when you have court-ordered therapy, it's through these agencies. A lot of these therapists are just starting out. They need their hours to become credited licensed therapists. So that means that you're constantly seeing new therapists every month, every 3 months. For foster youth, it's really hard to form connections. You're constantly afraid of being abandoned. So opening up to someone who's supposed to help you, listen to your issues, and kind of help guide you through those issues, and then for them to leave again, it makes it really hard to open up to another therapist or anyone in general.
It's like starting over again.
Yeah.
You're trying to work and process your experience, and you're like, okay, let me start at the beginning again.
Yeah, so there's a lot of issues with that, and it also goes beyond that in terms of psychotropic medications. Nationwide, over 30% of foster youth are actually currently prescribed on one or multiple medications. The state of California between 2011 and 2020 have actually passed multiple reforms. So in the state of California, we have seen foster youth given prescription medications have dropped by 22%. So we're currently looking at a 12.5% rate of foster youth on medications. As we saw that decline in California, we also saw a decline in how many foster youth were entering the system. So there is a big gap there. There's also something showing us that there needs more legislation to help foster youth and kind of to protect them.
Yeah.
There was also a study found that 38% of court cases or children that were given psychotropic medications, 38% of those court cases, they actually weren't mandated by the court.
Wow.
There were no checks or balances in an essential sense.
One of the reason that you are now an advocate for other foster youth, and you're going to college to study criminal justice and this very thing so you can make a difference in this arena. Do you mind sharing your personal story of growing up in the system and what your experience was?
Yeah, so I was originally placed into the system due to abuse and neglect. I entered my first foster home. I stayed there. I entered in May 11th of 2011.
How old were you then?
I was 11 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So I actually was removed from my elementary school. I was taken by law enforcement officers to their precinct, and then I was dropped off at the DCFS office. That was probably one of those scariest times, because when I arrived at the DCFS office, they told me that they did not have a home for me that night, and that they did not know what they would have to do, like in terms of finding shelter for me for the night. They told me a big possibility was being placed in a shelter in downtown LA, where you kind of just like
one of the homeless shelters in downtown LA?
I'm not too sure. Thankfully, I did not have to go. They ended up finding a foster care placement for me. It was a new foster family, actually, so they were willing to kind of open their homes a little bit sooner. So I stayed with them about until July of that year. Then I went with my maternal grandmother, and I stayed with her for about a month before I was unfortunately placed into my second foster home.
How many foster homes did you end up spending time in from the time that you got into the system at 11 until you turned 18?
So before I was actually, thankfully, I was placed in 2012 with my grandmother. Sorry, 2016 with my grandmother.
Okay.
She was giving, she was giving guardianship of me. So prior to that, I was in 4 different placements. Yeah, so 2 foster homes and then 2 family placements as well.
So 4 different homes in just under 5 years, it sounds like?
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. And yours is one of thousands of stories just like that.
Yeah.
Did you, when you were saying earlier that if a foster youth is in more than 5 homes during the course of their foster care experience, there's a very alarming stat. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so there's studies shown that if a foster youth is placed into 5 or more homes, their chance of either their interaction with the criminal justice system goes up by 90%.
Wow.
When it's already at, by the age of 17, 50% of foster youth are more likely to have faced some sort of encounter with the legal system, whether it's incarceration, conviction, an arrest. So that statistic is very alarming.
Unbelievable. Thank you for setting this up and sharing the story with us. Because I think, again, like people say, okay, yeah, the foster system is broken, and that's kind of all they know about it. But to hear it really from firsthand lived experience, how are you doing now? I mean, you're 21, you're in college, out of college,
Yes,
you
she
graduated.
is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how has that experience shaped what you're doing now?
It has really inspired me to kind of go out and look for change in the world. I feel like aside from just foster youth, there is a lot of other key issues out there that need addressing, specifically in terms of like education. I do want to become a children's attorney, hopefully one day, and work at Edmonds Children's Court in Monterey Park. That is where I had all my court cases. So it's very dear to my heart to kind of go back and help foster youth there.
You are amazing. And we met when I was working with another organization that was giving you a scholarship for college. And you stood out then, you stood out now. I know you're going to make so much change in the world. I'm curious if there was one piece of advice you'd have for maybe a foster youth who's listening, or just sharing in your case, what was it that helped you, quote unquote, overcome the odds, as we've spoken about before? You know, what do you think helped you see the light at the end of the tunnel when you're going through so much?
You just have to keep going. You know, the world does not stop. And there's been times where I kind of just bed rotted in terms of like new cultural sayings. And I kind of just watched the world kind of leave me behind. And you can't do that. You know, you just have to keep going and keep fighting, because no one's going to fight as hard for yourself as you will. You're your biggest advocate. And I feel like, as so many foster youth know, like we all have that strength, that desire, that passion to really make sure that we are fighting for ourselves and also for our needs.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing and coming in and really setting us up to have a really important conversation this hour. We've talked a lot at the top about all the challenges that kids like you have had and continue to have. And we're going to spend some time now talking for the rest of the hour about some of the organizations and the ways that the Change Reaction has been able to get in and help and provide a little bit of a boost for everyone who's been going through the system. So we'll talk about more on that after a short break. This is Change Reaction Radio and the Change Reaction Radio podcast on 790 KABC.
Wow. What an incredible conversation with Reyleen and Brooke Perlman from the Change Reaction. Reyleen, who has been a foster youth, who's had that lived experience. I'm so moved, and we're just getting started. You're listening to 790 KABC Change Reaction Radio, the Change Reaction podcast. I'm Christina Pascucci alongside Matt West. Don't you just feel like your mind is blown?
It's a heck of a way to start an hour of conversation with just getting right into the heavy. Brooke, thank you so much for staying with us too for this hour. Reyleen's such an incredible guest, and I think sets the stage for such a powerful conversation about how organizations are being supported by the Change Reaction as they do their best to support DCFS and kids in the system. Tell us a little bit about how Change Reaction's been able to help.
Yeah, absolutely. I think her story is a perfect example of how ideas get started at the Change Reaction. So just really fast before we get into other things, a program that we have at the Change Reaction is called the Kinship Caregiver Initiative. And it's for stories like Reyleen, when she gets put with grandma and grandma gets that call and doesn't know that she's going to be taking in, her granddaughter, and needs to figure out how to support her and financially support her family, now that she's going to be raising a child again. So we started a program based off grandmas like Reyleen's grandma who need that type of support. And it just takes those stories and really getting to know people, which is what we're doing at the Change Reaction, to spark that idea of, wait a minute, there's something deeper here. There's more people out there like Reyleen and like her family, like her grandma, who need those resources and need that financial help.
And that's what's really sparked that outreach, right?
Yeah.
Then to create the connections and the partnerships with all the other organizations who are doing amazing work.
Exactly.
I want to bring in a guest for this hour, an amazing woman who's got a fantastic organization, one of the many supported by the Change Reaction, Romi Lassally
Welcome,
from
Romi.
Ready to Succeed. Thanks for coming in.
I feel like
for
you know
having me.
everybody. You're a degree of separation away from all of us.
It is true, and I think that's why we do what we do.
Yeah, right. Tell us what Ready to Succeed. I mean, we're familiar, but for the listener, what it is.
Sure. So I like that you started that way because we connect the dots. I mean, I think that's why I was lucky enough to meet my partner, Pat McCabe, 10 years ago, and we saw this gap that wasn't being filled. We saw that there were foster youth, like Reyleen that you mentioned, who had made it to college, which was pretty miraculous. These are sort of, superheroes who've...
Against the odds.
Against such incredible odds. And they'd made it this far, but even though they'd made it, they were dropping out at tremendous rates. And we thought, that's not okay. And my partner, Pat McCabe, and I have LA natives, huge networks of people. And I think our initial premise was we learned about the problem. We learned that there were foster youth, so many in LA. And to us, it was solvable because probably our personalities, we just love connecting people. And we had deep benches of people. And so we thought, let's leverage these networks for good and make sure students have what they need when they need it. And this is, very niche. Foster youth in college, people like us wanting to connect networks, using our, build social capital. But that wasn't enough. Like we knew we needed everything that the program has become over the years to help these incredible foster youth not just graduate, but graduate with a degree and hitting the ground running because they can't go home.
So when they first start, right, when you're talking about the things that they need right off the bat, like what was the sort of beginning of Ready to Succeed? Like how did it start? And then we can talk about what it's grown into.
Yeah. It really was, okay, they need people. Let's see. These are young people without families. So
Right.
just someone to listen to them, someone to say, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? What's your story? And nobody had ever asked most of the students we work with that really pivotal question.
Yeah.
So we thought initially internships, access internships, jobs. And so we literally said, okay, what do you want to be? Okay, maybe finance, maybe a veterinarian. Okay, let's figure it out. And then who do we know? And we literally put students in our cars, drove them to offices where we knew people. And that's really what started it, is just let's use our network to open doors. And then we thought, okay, maybe not everyone's quite ready. Like students would say, you're coming in a little hot. Okay. Or some of the people we'd said, will you do us a favor? It was a favor at the time. They'd say they weren't quite ready for what we had to offer for the doors that you're opening. And so what the program has become is a 4-year program at least. So we start when students are rising freshmen, going into their sophomore year. Earlier was too early. They couldn't,
Of
it was
college.
like of college, yeah. And then we follow them all the way through graduation and 1 year into the workforce.
Now, when you say earlier is too early, like before they enter college, they're not quite ready for it. It's a little overwhelming, or just
We're not
clarify
ready.
that.
I guess
You're
we're not ready. We love to go, upstream or downstream, whichever, earlier.
Sure.
But we wait until they're in college because, again, there are amazing organizations. I know Change Reaction works with several of them to help them get into college, but nobody was helping them once they were there. Freshman year was too early just because, any freshman, I have 3 kids who are freshmen, you're just like,
It's
where's my
overwhelming.
dorm?
Yeah,
Where's my classroom?
Yeah.
It's interesting because you're in a very specific niche, transitional age foster youth. There's such a massive need there. Essentially, they age out of the system. They're given a couple $100 and told good luck. And I mean, I don't think any of us would be able to handle the situation. We have a support system. Kids are still living with their parents into their 30s these days because of how unaffordable California is. So just imagine being like, a young person trying to go into this world. So there's the aging out of the system, but then there's like the secondary where they make it through and they're doing good things, but then they could still fall through the cracks. So what has Ready to Succeed turned into full throttle?
So it's really become this family. My Pat often says, well, we're not family, but we really are family, but like the best, most hooked up family who has everything you need when you need it. And again, I think that's why Change Reaction's been such an amazing partner. It's not just the what, it's the when. You have to deal with a need in the moment. So if you have a student who's a senior, done everything right, engineering, and they have a housing resource, but they don't have the money. Like they found the apartment they're going to move into, but they don't have first and last month's rent. So that's where Change Reaction comes in. So our program is advising and mentorship and internship placement, all with the goal of like, let's get a job, a really good job. But none of that matters if life veers off track, and it always veers off track. A parking ticket, anything.
Yeah.
What do you find, and what have you found over the last several years of working with people who have been through the foster system as they get into college? Like, what have you learned from their experience that maybe sets them apart from the average college student who has all of the support and all of the things going into school?
I think probably two things that just remarkable. I mean, everything sounds like a buzzword now, but so motivated. Over 90% of foster youth want to go to college, and then only 4% graduate. Are you kidding me? All that potential on the table. So I've learned, such a spirit. I've never, each student is different, but just resilience and motivation and this just light. But also more stuff comes up, so many obstacles that just, and there's this domino effect of things that can happen and so easily that they can be taken off track.
Do you think that current city and county officials pay close enough attention to this issue, or that it's prioritized enough?
No.
Yeah, why is that? Because it's obviously such a major issue.
I think there's this assumption that when you turn 18, you're an adult. And I think we all know better that is not true. And I don't know if it's lack of education. They're not collecting enough data, which we are collecting data, and hopefully can contribute to that to show what's going on. Mm-hmm. I just think there's this assumption that they're all okay, and they're really not okay, and they still need a lot of support.
And they also maybe aren't necessarily voters when they're kids, pre-18, so politicians aren't paying close enough attention.
Yeah.
I do have one more question. You want to go ahead, Matt? Okay. So I just want to bring up your graduation that you have every year, because it is such a celebration. I've had the privilege of emceeing it, and there's just so much joy and excitement, and the level of the sense of accomplishment that these kids felt. They all are coming in from these amazing colleges. Can you tell us more about it and just what that moment, that day is like? I'm so glad that it evolved. It was a great idea of one of our early development directors to have this inspiration breakfast, it was called, and then it became a graduation celebration. And again, these young people don't have opportunities to be celebrated enough and then raise awareness for what they can do. And it just gives an opportunity for people to celebrate people going into all these different professions and sort of realizing who they can be and and for others to see from the outside who they are becoming. Yeah.
It's
so good.
thrilling. Yeah.
I want to touch on something here when you talked about like early is too early before, but you've seen so much about what happens to kids within the system. I mean, we heard from Reyleen earlier, right, where she got very, very lucky and she got placed with her grandma for the latter part of her adolescence. And so that set her up for success. But so many kids don't get that opportunity with family. So, but you being on the front line, seeing what the needs are, if you were going to identify areas where government, whether that was city, county, state level, like where they could do more for the foster system, like what would you advocate for?
I do think starting earlier, if only 50% of young people are graduating high school, let's get more graduating high school. Let's have more prevention, more preventative support, more help bringing volunteers in and community, and probably more organizing. I mean, certainly more money, but more people to help organize and galvanize people. Because
I think we've seen like intervention works, right? When you can get involved and you can provide support. And it's great that there are organizations like Ready to Succeed and Change Reaction getting in and filling in gaps where they can. But the system itself really could do a better job of wrapping themselves around actually getting kids through the system.
Yeah. Yeah. And personalizing it, There's not a one size fits all. You can't fill out a form for what your independent living situation will be when you're an adult. Everyone's unique, yeah.
Thank you for what you do and your heart and all the attention you bring to this issue. And I'm so inspired. I hope that we can continue to see change on this front, both preventative and responding to the transitional age youth.
Yeah, these kids that you've been working with for so many years are very, very lucky to have you. And we're very, very lucky to have you here with us on Change Reaction Radio. Romi Lassally.
Thank you.
Ready to Succeed. How can folks support you if they want to learn more about the organization and get involved?
Yeah, visit us at readytosucceedla.org. And again, become a volunteer. Join the community. One conversation, one door open can really change a life. And that's really, it's easy, one at a time.
Unbelievable. Well, we're going to take it one step at a time and one moment at a time. We're going to take a moment here, regather our thoughts, and continue to talk about this very important issue here. It's Change Reaction Radio and the Change Reaction Radio podcast on 790 KABC. Stick around. And we're back with Change Reaction Radio, the Change Reaction Radio podcast. You can learn all about the Change Reaction at our website, changereaction.org, and you can see this show and segments from past episodes on our YouTube channel. You can search that up at the Change Reaction org. I'm Matt West, your host, along with Christina Pascucci and
Hello.
Brooke Perlman, communication manager for the Change Reaction and a passionate advocate for the cause of supporting foster youth in the city.
Yeah.
It's great for you to be here.
I'm so happy to be here.
We've had an amazing show so far, some really powerful, incredible guests, but you've really got some excitement about our next guest here.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm so excited. So I know I'm the communications manager, but I also get to be Greg and Jody's daughter.
Yeah.
So that really
Who founded
allows
Change
me
Reaction, of
to,
course.
yes, it allows me to just also dive deep into areas that I'm passionate about. But I guess all of us at Change Reaction are allowed to do that. So we really get to know the change agents, the people on the grounds. We're not just sitting in our, ivory tower, making decisions. We're really getting to know people. And I don't even remember how we met Sid, but her passion and her advocacy and her intelligence and her background and her education, she's a key advocate in this space. And so every time we talk, I feel inspired by her, truly. And
let's welcome her into the show.
so we're going to welcome her in.
Sid Stewart. She's the founder of
you.
Better Youth. And I mean, what does that feel like to be lavished with that kind of praise for your work?
Yeah, I mean, I guess when you do this work, your head is always, you're 10 toes down and your head is just always focused. So you never really think of yourself in that way. But it is affirming and validating to see yourself through the lens of other people. But it's an honor and a privilege to be a servant. So I think a change agent is really a servant, focusing on the needs of others rather than the needs of what you need, especially in the backdrop of Hollywood, right? Kind of a self-centered agency or entertainment economy. It's great to uplift the desires of foster youth in this business.
Now, we've seen, just in this hour alone, the gaps are everywhere within the system. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how Better Youth gets in and provides support for these kids who need it.
Sure. I mean, in a nutshell, our mission is to build creative confidence, competence, career connections, and community. So, we build creative confidence, provide resource gaps, and prepare foster and system-impacted youth for success in the creative economy. And now, with the shift and pending recession and the world is shifting, we have to be agile and meet youth where they are, but still stay mission-focused and impact-driven. And so we provide training, professional development, mentorship, earn and learn programs through pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship pathways, both state and federally registered, federal nexus, state nexus. All of that sounds great, but you'll hear it through the eyes or through the experience of one of our apprentices here today, Yaz. So I can say all of that. We have all of these brochures and color copy prints, and that's great. But if it doesn't impact the life of a young person, if Yaz doesn't say it's great and the youth in our program, then what are we doing?
How did this start for you?
Wow, how did it start? Well, I'm a filmmaker. So I wanted a way to match my purpose with my passion. Purpose being first, so having a purpose-driven life is key. And I think Ava DuVernay once said, if your dream isn't big enough or if it doesn't include other people, it's not big enough. So I wanted to do more than just play make-believe in Hollywood. I wanted to make dreams come true. And it started for me in the projects of Harlem when I was working and teaching poetry and working in the music industry and just having this pull, it's a calling. So it's to pull others with you. And so I remember missing a poetry class in Harlem, and this little kid on a bike, he was like 10, he rolled up on me like, yo, where you been? Like, I missed one class. And he didn't even like poetry, and he was like, you missed? I was like, wow, I'm impacting this kid's life. So how do I do more of that? And fast forward, I did a film for HBO, and I did some other stuff, and now I'm a writer for television and do film, but transferred it here and started working in the projects of Watts. Basically, I started working for LAUSD, and my mentor is Walter Mosley, and he's from Watts. So I ended up just following in his footsteps and seeing where I could be of service.
Amazing. And you've been a partner of the Change Reaction since 2021. So for a number of years, how have they stepped in and impacted your organization and helped magnify your impact?
Wow. How much time do we have?
We got plenty of time. Yeah. Take your time.
So I couldn't believe, I think I met Wade. I think through my mentor, Harriet Zareski, who used to be the board chair of CASA, introduced me. And shout out to Glenn Freeman. I met Wade and talked a little bit about what we did. And then we started receiving support. And then it turned into like a thought partnership. And we have a technology initiative where every youth gets a computer through our program. And they're able to build credit through that initiative with having some skin in the game. But I think this kind of partnership was unimaginable. It's like they trust us with the funding to be those agents and to make those decisions. And it causes, trust, responsibility, good stewardship. But also if we have questions, I can text Brooke and, or Elof or Glenn, or I just met your dad and your mom. Like, it doesn't seem to be a hierarchy. I think they mitigate the bureaucracy in getting funding to youth. There's always a barrier. So it's a barrier for an organization to lessen the barriers of young people. And sometimes it's hard to talk to funders about what your real needs are. And I know I can have those real conversations. They may not say yes all the time, but it may be maybe or maybe no. But it's like, okay, well, how do we solve this issue together? So let's do it efficiently.
So let's talk about some of those needs, right? Like it's amazing that you have this relationship with the Change Reaction to ask for your needs, but that's kind of the power of having a platform like Change Reaction Radio. Like, tell us a little bit about those needs and what kind of ways people who resonate with your mission and your goal and your vision can help, and ways that they can fill in the gaps that you're trying to fill for these kids.
Mentorship. At the end of the day, I'm a mentor, just a glorified mentor as a CEO of this organization and founder. So one is mentorship, but support of young people, social support. So the key needs are transportation. Yaz lives in South LA. She has to go to AGT every day in Pasadena. So we have to get her from South LA to Pasadena, or now she's in Burbank. So that's key. Any program in LA, transportation is key. We serve kids all over LA County. Wellness, mental health support. We were able to use a Change Reaction grant to get Yaz some support through mental health. She received a grant for that. I would think nutrition, wellness, like we have food every day when the kids come to the lab. Professional development, and also emergency funds, housing. Housing is key. We just had a kid kicked out of his group home his housing program abruptly, and would have been homeless had we not had some funds accessible to put him in an Airbnb. Those are the needs: homelessness, food, basic needs, technology.
What I'm trying to figure out is why, when this is such a crucial issue impacting tens of thousands of kids in LA County alone, does it not feel like it's prioritized when it comes to legislation or politicians, or what do you think needs to be done to increase the pressure, the awareness? How do you make people act?
I think you demonstrate what that action is. I think we're tired of sitting around waiting for the system to do anything. The system is broken, and it has been broken for years, and activists act. So they make the change that's necessary. Like, the change we're waiting on is us. So I think it's community-driven solutions rather than waiting on a broken system that's never going to change. It's us. It's the community that can create these solutions.
Unbelievable. When you talk about mentorship, because I know you work in the creative community, are you always looking for people? I mean, and not that there's a shortage of them in this town. Are you always looking for people from the industry and from the creative industry to be those mentors, or are you accepting mentorship from all manner of people who may just want to get in and help?
Yes, betteryouth.org. You can sign up there to be a mentor. Yes, we are looking for people in the industry to share their story, their journey, how they got there. Everybody has a different story. But more importantly, we're looking for people who have a heart and dedication and a commitment. It may not be long term. The general tenure for mentorship is 6 months, one time a month. Six meetings. You'll be surprised.
That's nothing. That's a
when
nothing
you show
commitment.
up, what it can do, the power of one, what it can do. But it really is about showing up.
Amazing. I wanted to quickly turn, because and we're going to talk to Yaz in a second here as we get into her experience, because she's working in the industry now. You mentioned she's working at AGT, America's Got Talent. How has the industry sort of responded, right? As you're able to place kids with opportunities, right, into different shows and through your connections, like, how have they responded to being a part of this program? And have they demonstrated an interest in receiving more and in working with you more directly to create kind of a more hardened pipeline, if you will?
Yes. So I would say because of the impact that we have, Skydance Media, Warner Brothers Discovery, PBS SoCal, America's Got Talent, GRX Immersive, Tatum Games, all of our employer partners. We are amazed at the support and the response that people who have hearts, they know the power of apprenticeship pathways and what it can do, and what an open door, just a crack in a door, can do. So yeah, we're pleased at the partnerships and the employer partners that we have.
So good. Well, we're going to hear a little bit how those partnerships are working out. We're going to talk to one of your scholars who's actually working in the industry to hear a little bit about what that feels like and what that experience is for her, so that people can really understand the power of mentorship and support and see how this really can lift all people. So we'll hear a little bit about that coming up in just a second. You're listening to Change Reaction Radio, the Change Reaction Radio podcast. This is 790 KABC.
Seven 790 KABC Radio, Change Reaction podcast. Thank you so much for joining us for this hour of power, I just wanted to call it. Christina Pascucci here with Matt West.
Hi.
We've been focusing on the foster care system for this particular episode, and it's so incredibly important. There's people doing amazing work around it. The Change Reaction, of course, has been very focused on this issue. And Brooke Perlman from the Change Reaction was joining us earlier alongside Sid Stewart, the founder of Better Youth. And we are about to meet one of the youth who has been a part of their apprenticeship program and saw just incredible results from it. I can't wait to hear it from you, Yaz. Welcome to the show, Yaz Thomas.
Hello.
Thank you for being here. You're 22 years old. You joined this apprenticeship program about a year ago?
Yes.
And tell us like what it involves and how it's been for you.
Well, yeah, I saw this flyer for this film program, and I'd been working, I think I'd worked like 8 to 9 jobs in like 4 years. So like I was just doing these regular 9-to-5s, kept getting fired. I was like, this is some garbage. So I'm going to go to this film program, and everything went up from there. Like my whole life changed immediately. It went from being money-minded and money-focused to being passion-focused, which was really, really dope. because my whole life I've always known that I was going to be in the film industry regardless, but I didn't have a plan. And getting to Better Youth, they showed me a pathway and a plan and showed me that it was actually possible. So that's awesome. I'm loving life right now.
What was that like, getting that kind of support? Like, having a dream and not knowing what to do with it, but then finding people who are like, we can help you out. Yeah.
They like to say their special sauce is love, and I think that couldn't be more true. Like, it's it feels amazing, so amazing that I'm a lot closer to them than I am to the people in my actual life. And it makes me feel very supported. It makes me feel solidified. It makes me feel like I have a back, someone to watch my back at all times, and then amazing. I feel less lost as well.
You're glowing, I just have to say. Like, I can tell you're living your passion.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
What have you learned about your dream in terms of like, okay, yeah, I have a dream, I want to get into it, but now you've been working in the industry for a little while, right? And you see what it's really like.
Yeah.
Like, what have you learned from that experience, and what have you learned from the mentorship you've received with Better Youth too?
So it's a completely different lifestyle. Like, I used to only make sure I did night shifts and stuff when it came to like 9 to 5s.
Why was
things
that?
Like that. Just easier. You don't got to wake up in the morning and go flip some burgers,
Right. Okay.
And now that I'm doing my passion, it's a completely different schedule. Like, I'm waking up early mornings, getting my coffee, and like getting ready for the day. And while it's an adjustment, it's the best adjustment in the world that I can like have prayed for, because it's for my passion, so it makes waking up early really worth it. And I get to learn so much, because I want to be a showrunner.
Okay, so you got to learn everything on a set.
Exactly,
you got to be
and
in
off the set.
Yeah, right.
Like post, pre-production, all that. And the fact that I get to sit there and learn and like see these things with my own eyes is everything, because I get to just soak it in like a sponge. And then the mentorship is just like the cherry on top, because before I came to Better Youth, I was very shy, and now I feel like I'm coming out of my shell a lot more. And it's all thanks to, the love that's been shared with me, and the advice that they share with me, and the support.
You're shy, and now she's on a radio show.
Yeah, no big
Crushing
deal.
it.
Sid, what's it like for you to sort of see this, right? To follow the journey from someone who comes in like Yaz, who doesn't really know where she wants to be, knows she's got a thing that she wants to do, but has no idea how to point it. Like, what's it like for you to experience the growth that she's been able to experience through this program?
I like to say it's transformation in real life. And it's a partnership. So just like we have a partnership with Change Reaction, we have a partnership with Yaz. We have an omnidirectional program. So we do our part, but Yaz is responsible for her part. And I think instead of it being a hierarchy, it's a partnership with the youth to help them improve their lives. We're not superheroes. They're not broken, right? They just need some guidance. And so Yaz is not a morning person, and we had that conversation today. This industry is 5 a.m. call time. So she's adjusting and willingly adjusting, but I think it's beautiful to see their God-given trajectory, that I get to play a part in that.
Yeah.
We get to play a part in that. But Yaz is driving. We're teaching her, we're giving her the gas, here's the car. We're teaching her to drive, because if you teach a child how to fish, they'll never go hungry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she has the magic, and you're just giving her a little.
Just
push
giving her
along
a
the
light.
way.
Molding
Yeah.
it a little bit.
There's been 188 youth, I believe, that the Change Reaction has supported through your program, specifically foster youth. And so when I think of that number, I just think of, Yaz and the trickle effect and domino effect you're having. So many lives are being changed.
Absolutely. And I think the beautiful thing about Change Reaction is that it's not a one-off. Like, Yaz is part of that 188, but she's been supported 2 or 3 times. So that's 3x if you think about it. Each youth, at least in Better Youth, has had support from Change Reaction at least 2 to 3 times. So that's a 3x because each time is an engagement of support. So that kind of support is like everybody who's in Change Reaction, we just don't believe it, until you're in it. But it's that kind of ongoing support is necessary.
One of the things about the Change Reaction is the whole notion of paying it forward, right? Like every single person that's been helped by the Change Reaction, it's kind of built into the DNA, right, Brooke? Like everyone's asked, like, how will you pay it forward, right?
Yeah, it's because I think to be on the receiving end is one thing, but to know that you have the power to give, and it doesn't have to be monetary. You don't have to pay for something, but it could be as simple as holding the door open for somebody or babysitting someone's kids or cooking a meal for your neighbor. It's just knowing that you have the power to be generous.
The pay it forward model inside of the Change Reaction as part of the fuel is so powerful. How have kids who have been through the Better Youth program been able to pay it forward as you've seen them? And you've helped 1,200 kids over the last number of years. Like, how have they been able to sort of like hold the door open for the next kid coming through?
Yes, and that would be 12,000.
12,000.
Add another zero in there.
Still impressive either way. It's incredible.
Yaz was at our open house. She had just come off set. She came through the door just to let kids know how important this program was to her, just to be a peer mentor. So she's there every Friday when she can and she's not working. Isaac is another Change Reaction grantee. He received equipment to set up his podcast, and now he's back at his alma mater, his school, mentoring other youth who are just as involved. He's just as involved, and he's a former foster youth, but he goes every week to mentor other youth because he understands the power of giving back. And Change Reaction is like big benevolence energy is what I say.
I love that. I'm curious. I mean, I think life can be so overwhelming. And when you were looking for resources, Yaz, what's your advice to other former foster youth or those who maybe are trying to even know where to take the first step to find resources to support them? Like, what did you do? Is it tough to find those?
It's incredibly tough, just because I feel like, we never know where to look. This really did just fall in my lap, and I was just incredibly blessed. And now, I don't have to do 9 to 5s anymore, which is great. And I'm hoping that, I haven't talked to Sid about this yet, but I'll talk to my old group home about it. I'm thinking of going back to group homes and trying to tell them about resources like this so that they have the option to go this route, just like I did. Yeah.
Amazing.
So good. How has this experience, prepared you for your dreams, for what's next, right? Like you were saying before, like, I want to be a showrunner.
Yeah.
Right. Like how has this whole experience like inspired that level? Because some kids come into the industry and they're just happy to work. Right. And they don't necessarily see like, I want to be running the show. How has this sort of changed your approach to the way that you think about your dreams?
So I've always been entertainment industry focused since like an adolescent. And but the dream was always to be an actress.
Okay.
And I got to Better Youth and I started getting hands-on with like the equipment, and I continued like my directing and my producing and all that. And I was like, I don't want to just do someone else's ideas. Like at that point I was like, okay, I want to be a showrunner. So I feel like it's really just been the experience that I've been blessed with, and the different programs I've been able to be a part of because of the first program I was a part of. And just getting more experience. The more experience I get, the more I learn.
Are there particular stories that you hope to tell?
Any story?
Yeah, based on your own lived experience and, when you're going to go back to group homes, tell them the resources. Is there anything in particular that you're passionate about sharing with the world, or a message that you want to get out?
I think it's, I want to make sure to tell people not to be afraid of their own power, because once you embrace it, you can go farther than you ever thought of going, and to stay motivated and stay hungry and stay open-minded, all that.
You're going to do some great things. I can't wait to watch you continue to soar.
I know folks can't see this, but the smile that Sid has on her face, watching Yaz just kind of blossom, it's incredible.
Amazing. What does that make you think of, or what goes through your mind watching her do that?
I can't speak because you all can see these tears. I remember when Yaz came
last year. She was full of energy, but needed some support and guidance. And she's a bit of an introvert. So for her to be sitting here sharing her vision of her life with the world, our job is done. Like, we'll continue to support her, but we did our job.
It's a wonderful job you did, too. Folks, if you want to get in and support Better Youth or Ready to Succeed or any of the organizations that are supported by the Change Reaction, you can learn all about them at our website at changereaction.org. What a powerful hour. All kinds of stories for you to catch up on. If you're following us on Instagram, it's _Change Reaction. YouTube, we're at the Change Reaction org. Brooke Perlman, Communications Manager for Change Reaction, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you to Romi Lassally from Ready to Succeed, Sid
Thank you.
from Better Youth, Christina Pascucci. Any parting thoughts on an incredible hour?
Just Yaz and Reyleen are our future, and if they're our future, I feel like we're in good hands.
Nothing else to say there. I'm Matt West. You can find me on social at Bonafide Matt West. You can find Christina Pascucci at Pascucci Christina. Did I get it right? Did we nail it?
Christina Pascucci.
Christina Pascucci.
Yeah,
there you go.
close
Yeah,
enough.
that's the name. Yeah. We'll get it right one of these days. All right. This has been an incredible hour of Change Reaction Radio and the Change Reaction Radio podcast. Thank you for listening to 790 KABC.